boogeyman band coming round the bend. Is boogeyman band. Is boogeyman band.
Greetings, my fellow Fright Fiends. It's your buddy Boogeyman Ben. Hope everyone's doing well. Thank you so much for taking the time to stop by and check out this video. I know I'm way behind the 8 ball on this movie review for Matt Reeves' The Batman. I saw this movie back when it opened. I actually saw it on the 3rd of this month. 3rd of March. I went to the 6 o'clock showing. I really wanted to do a review of the film soon after seeing it, but I just didn't have the time. Work has been really taking a lot out of me, and it's hard to do some of these more, layered videos as opposed to doing like an unboxing, which is pretty easy to do. So some of these ones where, I need to put more time into them. It's been harder for me to find the time to do that. So again, I apologize for this taking so long. I know that this movie has been covered extensively here in the YouTube space. It's been out for 2 weeks now. In fact, it's still making a killing at the box office. I'm recording this on the 13th of March. It's already crossed 238 million domestically and 463 worldwide, 463 million. So it's a huge hit. And really excited to talk about it. But before I do, I just wanted to give a little bit of background on my appreciation for the Batman character and the franchise. Growing up, I was a big comic book collector. I got into collecting comics when the Incredible Hulk television series was popular. The first comic book I ever got was an Incredible Hulk comic, so I was about 4 years old when I got my first comic book. Most of the comic books I collected as a kid were Marvel comics, Incredible Hulk primarily. Every once in a while I'd pick up like the Defenders or the Avengers or a Spider-Man here and there. I got bigger into Spider-Man after I met a good friend of mine growing up, Mike Dodson. We both went to St. Joseph's Catholic school together. He was a big comic collector. He got me into like the Secret Wars comics, which featured Spider-Man, the Hulk, Iron Man, Captain America, the X-Men. It was a great comic book series. I still have all my issues. But after that, and I think when Spider-Man got the symbiote during the Secret Wars, that's when I really got into those books and actually kind of moved away from the Hulk, even though the Hulk was still one that I collected and loved and is still my favorite superhero of all time. The Spider-Man comics were so awesome because he had such a massive rogues gallery, especially like Hobgoblin, which I've talked about in many videos. Going back to Batman, my exposure to Batman was primarily through cartoons like the Super Friends. People might remember that growing up in the 80s. And I used to watch Scooby-Doo a lot, and there was a Scooby-Doo Mystery Hour, which was like a 2-parter. They would air one part one day, usually on a Tuesday, part air on a Wednesday, and they would usually have special guests like Sonny and Cher, Don Knotts, Three Stooges, Phyllis Diller, Cass Elliot. And one time they had Batman and Robin. You had the Joker and the Penguin in the episode. So those were like my exposure to the characters. As I got into comic book collecting a little bit bigger, probably around 1984, 1985, I used to frequent a store called Pinole Toy and Comic. It was run by Lon and Butch. They were awesome guys. The store was a staple in my life for 10 years. It closed, unfortunately, in the summer of 1994. But prior to that, I would go there. I've showcased like this Godzilla figure when I did my review of Godzilla vs. Kong. That was bought by my Uncle Tim. That was a Christmas gift to me in Christmas of 1984. He got that at Pinole Toy and Comic. And it was just, prior to that, all of the comic books I would get would be from like 7-Elevens and stuff like that. This was like the first bona fide comic book store that I would ever be exposed to or start going to. And it was there that I would pick up, Batman books, like towards the latter half of the 80s, like a year before the Batman film that Tim Burton would direct would come out. But I remember picking up like the Death in the Family series. The character of Robin, who was Jason Todd, not Dick Grayson, would be killed by the Joker, and then also The Killing Joke, the Alan Moore graphic novel. And when the Batman film came out in 1989, it was a huge phenomenon. It was the summer movie, the huge blockbuster that summer. I remember going to see it with my mom at Pinole Century 10. I remember there was this kid behind us talking through the whole thing. He kept repeating words that the characters would say. I still remember that, and it irritated the hell out of me. I saw it a few times that summer. One time I also went and saw it with my cousins, Jason and Amanda, who had visited. They would visit every summer, and my Uncle Erlen took us and dropped us off at the theaters to go see it. So yeah, that summer was awesome. Became a huge Batman fan from there. Michael Keaton is always going to be my favorite Batman for some reason. I think it's just the nostalgia of it, and I loved Michael Keaton. I loved Jack Nicholson as the Joker. Kim Basinger was beautiful and amazing as Vicky Vale, and loved all the other cast members from Robert Wuhl to Jack Palance, Billy D. Williams, Pat Hingle, the amazing music by Danny Elfman. Yeah, that was a huge film. And with this new Batman film dropping this year in 2022, which is also coming up on the 30th anniversary of the sequel to Tim Burton's film, Batman Returns. And it was also the last time that all three of these characters, that being Batman, Catwoman, and the Penguin, were in a film together. I thought it was just kind of cool. You know, it's like, I remember when this film came out, it was such an anticipated sequel, and over the years this film has become bigger for me than that original Batman film, and I think it's because it feels more like a Tim Burton film to me. I did a review of it back in December of 2017. It was kind of like my Christmas horror-esque movie to talk about. I always try to talk about a Christmas horror movie every year, and this was the one I talked about that year. I'll put a link down below if you want to check out that review. I haven't watched it in a long time, but I love this film. And that was also the same summer I graduated from high school. I remember taking Carla Castillo to see this film, and I remember I was working retail at the time, and I just remember I was very, very tired. And I was trying to stay awake through the film. Even though I was invested in the film, I was very tired from working all day. But I loved the film. It was one of my first dates where I had a car, which was really cool. I remember borrowing my mom's car to pick her up and take her to the movies. And great memories of this film, and I can't believe it's been 30 years. Not only that milestone, but I also wanted to say that this year will mark the 10th anniversary of The Dark Knight Rises, which is my other favorite Batman film. Now, I know a lot of people would pick, you know, The Dark Knight over this one, but this film has a very special place in my heart. I love this film. I think it's a fantastic final chapter to the Nolan trilogy. This film, unfortunately, has a tragedy that will always be linked to it, and that is the tragic shooting that happened in Aurora, Colorado on the 20th of July. During a midnight showing of this, James Holmes went into a theater and actually killed 12 people while injuring 70. It was just a horrible it just still sickens me and makes me sad that happened. And I remember doing a video about it when my channel was still in its initial stages and just talking about it. I didn't do a review of the film, but I remember talking about that incident because at that point the media was trying to say that, you know, it was the movie's fault that it happened, and they were trying to find all these links between this guy and Batman, and it was just, you know, it's just what our media does in this country. And but I still think this is a brilliant film, and I know a lot of people have problems with it, but I absolutely love it. My favorite villain from the Nolan films is Bane, just because I love Tom Hardy so much. Everybody in this movie is fantastic, and I can't believe it's been 10 years since this came out, and I love this release of it. This was the last solo Batman movie we got until this new film dropped, which is, of course, the one I'm going to talk about today. So when the Riddler, a sadistic killer, begins murdering key political figures in Gotham, Batman is forced to investigate the city's hidden corruption and question his family's involvement. So for the cast, you have Robert Pattinson as Bruce Wayne and Batman. You have Zoe Kravitz as Selina Kyle, Catwoman. You have Jeffrey Wright as Lieutenant James Gordon. You have Colin Farrell as Oz the Penguin. Paul Dano as the Riddler. John Turturro as Carmine Falcone. And Andy Serkis as Alfred. The movie was written by Matt Reeves and Peter Craig. It was also directed by Matt Reeves, and the music was done by Michael Giacchino. A little trivia on the film. The filming began in January of 2020 in London and was put on hold on March 25th of 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. After a 5-month hiatus, shooting began again in late August 2020. After 2 days, filming was again suspended on September 3rd after Robert Pattinson tested positive for COVID-19. After Pattinson was cleared to return, shooting resumed on September 17th, 2020, and finally wrapped on March 12th, 2021, 14 months after principal photography initially began. Matt Reeves has said about the Batmobile that he liked the idea of the car itself as a horror figure, making an animalistic appearance to really scare the hell out of people Batman is pursuing. There is absolutely a horror genre aspect to this movie. I also heard that the Batmobile's appearance was inspired by John Carpenter's film Christine, which of course was adapted from Stephen King's novel. And Matt Reeves has also stated that his version of the Riddler was partly inspired by the infamous serial killer, the Zodiac. Comic books that were inspired by this film are Batman Ego, Batman Year One, and of course The Long Halloween. The film clocks in at nearly 3 hours in length, so it is the longest Batman film ever made. I also wanted to showcase this that I picked up today at Flying Colors Comics. This is the Batman Funko Pop. I think he's really awesome. It's actually the first Batman Funko I've ever got. So what did I think about the Batman? Does it live up to the hype? Was it the greatest Batman film ever made? What did I think about Pattinson as Batman? I fucking love the film. It is a very different Batman film, and I think that's what I like so much about it. You took the movie Seven and the movie Zodiac, two of my favorite David Fincher films, and then you put Batman in the middle of it. That is what this film felt like. I think Robert Pattinson absolutely killed it as Batman and Bruce Wayne. Now, Bruce Wayne isn't featured that much in the film. That's not so much of a spoiler because a lot of people have said that he is like Batman for 90% of the film. I think his depiction of Batman is the most terrifying I've seen on screen. His introduction as the character is chilling, and I love the fact that he wasn't Bruce Wayne for much of the film. I mean, Bruce Wayne is in it. You see him, you know, in interactions with Alfred and scenes within the city. But for the most part, Bruce Wayne is kind of a recluse. And it's a very different depiction than we've seen from other Batman films, where he's kind of especially like with Christian Bale, where he was this, you know, he had a facade that he put on when he was out in public. That is not really here. So it is very different. It is very jarring if you're looking for that kind of depiction of the character. But I think Pattinson just did a fantastic job. He gets a lot of shit unfairly. I know because he was in the Twilight films. Those films ended like 10 years ago. He's done a lot of terrific work since then with films like The Lighthouse or Tenet. He's a great actor. He always has been a great actor. I loved him in The Goblet of Fire. The Harry Potter film was the first thing I ever saw him in. I also love Zoe Kravitz as Selena Kyle. She's fantastic in it, and she's fantastic in everything I've seen her in. She was just recently in a film called Kimmy, which I thought she was terrific in. And I just love her depiction of this character, very different than what we've seen Anne Hathaway and Michelle Pfeiffer do. But she makes the character her own, and she does a terrific job. The huge standout for me in this, and even though he's not really in the film very much, is, of course, Colin Farrell as Oz, or the Penguin. My God. If you didn't know it was him, Colin Farrell is lost in that makeup, and even his voice. I couldn't even pick there was moments where it sounded like him, but for the most part, he disappeared into that makeup, and he was absolutely fantastic. I am riveted by his performance. Also, Paul Dano as the Riddler is absolutely terrifying as that character, very much taking hints from the real life Zodiac. And his reign of terror in the Bay Area began in 1968 on Lake Herman Road. There was multiple attacks from Blue Rock Springs in Vallejo, California, to Lake Berryessa, to San Francisco. And I thought it was really interesting how Matt Reeves took, you know, a real life criminal in the Zodiac and sort of took elements of that to create this version of the Riddler. I thought it was the creepiest depiction of a character that I've seen. And again, the last time we saw this character depicted was Jim Carrey's performance in Batman Forever, which came out in 1995. And there's also this amazing car chase between the Penguin and Batman in the new Batmobile, which is fucking incredible. And I couldn't believe how amazing that scene was. It was just chilling, and just the way it's directed. Matt Reeves is a fantastic director, and just does an amazing job with the action pieces in this, with the character moments. Again, it's a very slow burn film. It doesn't have a ton of action. It builds to action, but it's a lot more of sort of putting the pieces together of solving these crimes that are happening in Gotham with regards to what the Riddler is doing and what his motivation is behind the crimes that he's committing. So yeah, at the end of the day, The Batman is fantastic. It's my favorite film of 2022. I'm very happy to see that it is doing as well as it is at the box office. So if I had to give The Batman a rating on my scale, easily it is getting 5 skulls. So that is it, my fellow fiends. That is my thoughts on the Batman. I'm curious what everyone else's thoughts are. If you've seen the film, leave me some comments down below. Let me know what you thought of the film. Were you a fan of the casting choices they went with? Are you not a fan? Did you like the film? If you loved it, if you hated it, just let me know what you guys think about it. I'd really appreciate it, and appreciate your patience and me dragging my feet on getting this review out. I know there's a lot of other reviews out about this film, so the fact that you guys took the time to watch this really means a lot. There's some great content coming up. I got some really cool videos on the horizon. I also have a special announcement that I'm going to be making by the end of this month, and I hope everyone looks forward to that. Thank you all for the continued support, and I promise I'll talk to you again real soon. Take it easy. Stay scared as always. Hey fellow Fright Fiends, just want to say thank you again for supporting Boogeyman Ben's Horror Zone. If you're brand new to the channel and you haven't yet subscribed, please hit the subscribe button down below, hit the bell notification so you're updated every time I drop a new video. I typically do this once or twice a week with new content. I've been doing this for over 11 years, and the horror genre is a passion of mine, and it really means a lot to me that I can share that passion with all of you guys. Thanks so much again for the support, and I'll talk to you again later. Take it easy, stay scared as always.